Alan Colmes, always happy to welcome to our microphone Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, the junior senator from that state, graduate of Duke University School of Medicine, a practicing ophthalmologist in Bowling Green for 17 years. And welcome back to the show, Senator. Thanks so much for coming on tonight.
Hey, Alan. Glad to be with you.
Appreciate it very much. I think you were greatly misunderstood when you said on Cavuto's show on Fox Business or Fox News that the comment you made, you never said during your filibuster that you would not use a drone strike during an imminent attack or if there was some imminent issue that was facing the security well-being of the United States.
Well, I think George Bush probably explained the conundrum best when he said he was misunderestimated. So I think probably what happened is I was misunderestimated. But, it's funny. We looked back at some of the footage of the 13 hours because we were really bored, and we found that I used the exact same hypothetical example like 3 or 4 times during the 13 hours. And what people need to understand is what we're imagining is a gunfight where someone comes out of a, liquor store and robs the liquor store, and they're shooting at the police. There's always been the response that's been appropriate, and everyone basically has agreed to that the police can always respond with deadly force to the use of deadly force or to repel deadly force. And so really the technology the police use really isn't the question. It wasn't really the question of the filibuster. The question of the filibuster was, can you target Americans for killing them when they're not engaged in any kind of deadly force or combat? Can you target them without a trial by jury, et cetera, et cetera? And so I think the people who started complaining and saying I changed my position really must not have understood the filibuster to begin with.
Well, it was a great hypothetical. I mean, the fact is it's unlikely that someone's going to run out of a liquor store shooting and a drone's going to happen to be overhead at the moment.
Well, the other thing I was imagining, and I didn't fully explain, is what I'm imagining is a policeman sitting in his car, a gunman is shooting at the car, and the drone is like some kind of robotic apparatus that comes off of the car.
Right.
I think that, seriously, we send robots in to defuse bombs now. Will there be a day when there is something, even a gun flying that flies into midair that the policeman doesn't have to be in the direct line of fire?
Yeah.
So I think there's all kinds of, and you can imagine a hostage situation where, someone is holding in and they've killed one hostage, they're threatening the next, and that instead of a policeman breaking the door down, either a robot or a drone flies into the room and is able to do it. So we're not really imagining things from 50,000 feet. We're imagining a much more imminent situation. But the bottom line is when someone's using deadly force, there's always been the exception that the authorities can repel it with.
It's got to frustrate you that there you did this filibuster, you were hailed as a great hero to many for the things you said, and then the same people who said that suddenly turned on you when they didn't get the full context of what you were saying a little bit later on.
I think it wasn't the same people, Alan. I think some of these people, I really do think that this started out with people who had political motives, and, it's always hard to trace where stories exactly start, but I have a feeling this one started with somebody who really did not have the best of intentions.
Right. Well, I think you've also then additionally clarified it a couple of days later when you said, that you were very clear that you said my comments last night, I think the day later you said, left the mistaken impression that my position on drones had changed. Let me be clear, it is not. Armed drones should not be used in normal crime situations. They may only be considered an extraordinary lethal situation. You went you went beyond in order to clarify, which should have been satisfactory, I would think, to those people.
Yeah, the interesting thing about this is that when you think about what I was opposing in the filibuster, targeted assassination, it's more impressive because they can do it from 50,000 feet, but I would be against snipers doing targeted assassination. I would be against the government using clubs, spears, knives, or any kind of weapon to do targeted assassination. So that's what the debate was about, more than the technology. The technology just makes it easier for people to do targeted assassination anonymously, but that's what the debate was about. And so, I don't know, maybe it's good to bring it back up to have a little further explanation of all of it.
We're talking to Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. Also, I was very happy to hear you talk about when the Boston bomber, one killed, one captured, that we should have a trial by jury and use our criminal justice system as opposed to lock them up, Guantanamo, throw away the key, and not have due process.
Well, I think
it's the same argument, really.
Yeah, it's what separates us from them. It's what, having a Bill of Rights, and in fact, even among democratic nations, we are special in the sense that we prize our jury trial even more than many who give it up for certain instances. We keep it for almost every incident, particularly for violent crime. We keep the right to trial by jury and legal representation. And so, yeah, I think it is important. And when I talk to our soldiers who have served, some of them have lost limbs, they're adamant that what they're fighting for is the Bill of Rights, and they're disappointed in their politicians who say, oh, no, let's just lock them up and throw away the key, because once you do that, it sort of demeans what these soldiers have been fighting for.
Also, this notion that we should torture people or waterboard them, and this difference between revenge and justice, and the reason we have a Geneva Convention, really, where we don't do that, is to protect our own soldiers when they're in battle, so they don't get treated like that.
You know, and another point to make, and I did some testimony this week on drones again, is the thing that worries me that I think is coming is there's going to be a day that comes when our enemies, when the terrorists have drones and when they have weaponized drones, and there's going to be a day when I think people are going to be unsafe walking the streets in the United States because of potential for drone attacks. So we do have to keep that in mind with regard not only to what we're doing, either overseas or here, we just have to be aware that I think that's what's coming.
I got concerned when Mayor Bloomberg of New York said, hey, we kind of have to maybe rethink some of our constitutional rights or rethink the wording of the Constitution. I think it's worked pretty well for us for a couple of 100 years, and we've had more convictions in criminal courts for these terrorists than we have in military tribunals.
You know, when people like Mayor Bloomberg don't seem to have much respect for the Constitution and think, oh, well, maybe a majority vote could change it and make it better, really majority vote's what gave us Jim Crow. Democratic majorities, the Democrat Party all throughout the South voted in Jim Crow, and it's why you have to believe in a stronger 14th Amendment. You have to believe that there are rights that no majority can take away from you, and so I think the mayor is exactly wrong on this.
Well, we have to worry about the tyranny of the majority, as has often been said. Senator Rand Paul is our guest. Have you changed your views on immigration post the Boston bombing?
No, I'm still for immigration reform. I think our current immigration system is broken, and I want to be part of the solution. That being said, doesn't mean I'm going to roll over and just say, oh, we can have whatever comes down the pike. I want to make it better. And so, for example, I think we do need to look at refugees and asylum, particularly from some countries, more closely. We have to look at the numbers coming in. Same with student visas. On 9/11, at least half or more of the 9/11 attackers were here on student visas, but they weren't going to school and they weren't obeying the rules. So I think you do have to put significant energy in to see who's obeying the rules. In my town, Bowling Green, Kentucky, 2 refugees from Iraq last year were caught plotting to buy Stinger missiles. It turns out one of them's fingerprint was on an unexploded IED from many years previous to him coming in the country, and it wasn't found. So I think if we're going to fix immigration reform, which is a big problem and really has many components to it, let's go ahead and look at the national security aspects to it. But I'm not by saying this saying, oh, let's stop it forever. I'm just saying let's make sure there's a full debate on national security.
I'm not sure that relates to Boston, though, because here are people who are in the country more than a decade, Americanized. I'm not sure that anything we could do would have even retroactively stopped what happened in Boston a couple of weeks ago.
No, other than the fact that, we did have a program after 9/11 that did have more of a concerted effort on both refugee status and particularly student visa status with regard to certain areas where there is a lot of Islamic radicalism, and to make sure. The other thing about this is I know the FBI is trying to do a good job and probably did do a good job, but there is some question whether or not when he flew back to Chechnya, whether or not that red flag was caught by anyone in the FBI, and whether or not they should have done a reassessment of this person. Since the Russians pointed him out, they investigate and don't find anything. I'm not sure we know all the sequence of facts yet, but my question would be, when he flew back to Chechnya, should that not have been a little bit of a red flag that caused us to reevaluate what the Russians had said about him?
So you don't think the FBI dropped the ball here?
Well, I hate to be such that I can just, say with absolute certainty people did or didn't do their job, because I know they're all professionals trying to do their job. And I don't know. But that was my question, and my question would be to them, whether or not once he flew out of the country, that should have brought a renewed inspection. And I think that is a question worth asking in open hearings where everybody can hear the answer. And if there was a problem, the media has reported that his name was misspelled, and that's why he didn't wind up on the list, on the watch list.
Senator, as always, I'm very happy to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on the program and giving us some more context to some of the things you've been saying. Really appreciate your time. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks a lot, Al.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. That is Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. We are coming right back. The phones are open. We're at 877-4-ALAN. I didn't ask him, everybody, are you going to run for president? He clearly wants to run. We'll get more into that next time. Coming right back, we'll...